for me, when it comes to percussion in traditional music, especially like Scandinavian traditional music, is that the music is, and I talked a little bit about this with Guro on the previous show as well. The thing is, this music is kind of created as a package. It's like most of it is fiddle music, and it's kind of evolved to stand on its own.
Absolutely.
And it's like for this reason, there's like you have a melody, but there's also rhythm in the melody. There's a lot of like subdivisions, and because it's made for dancing, right? So the melody itself has to contain rhythm, and it has to contain a catchy melody, hopefully. And a lot of time, there's also like harmonic information baked into the tune itself as well. And I find that it can be hard to add something to that as an accompanist or like a percussion player. It can be hard to add chords and rhythm to something that is already such a finished package. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And like in Norway, I'm sure you will know more about this than me, but like in Norway and Sweden, we haven't had like a percussion tradition for that long, in my knowledge. So I'm curious, like, how would you approach this music as a percussion player?
That's a really, really good question, and one of my absolute favorite subjects. So I thought about a lot. And the most basic principle and thing to understand, as you said, is that within this context of both fiddle dance music, flute, munharpe, vocal dance music, anything, you as a drummer, you are not needed.
No,
there is no need for you. For if the point is to get people to dance, there's no purpose for you there. You're not needed to make people dance. If you look at, for example, another music that I studied for a couple of years, like Afro-Cuban music, would be really hard without the drums.
No, because it's kind of evolved in the tradition.
Yeah, and the Afro-Cuban music is drums and vocals. So the melodies there are not as important. They are not the drivers. You have the rhythmical section driving things, and then the melody flows. They call it like sobre la música, so like on top of the music.
Yeah.
So play over the music and sing over the music and stuff like that. But in this tradition we're talking about now, like a lot of Scandinavian and Nordic traditions, it's melody driven. As you said, everything exists in the melody. And I had a workshop with the great multi-instrument Ole Möller when I was...
He's maybe my biggest hero.
Yeah, he said that, like, guys, because at that time it was just me and another guy playing guitar, so we were guys, and he was like, "You're not needed. Remember that." Like, and you can hear that, but to actually understand it,
I think it's an important thing to actually,
and not just okay, that's cool to know. No, you have to embrace that and like, okay, so why would it be important for me to play drums? Well, there is not that much bass in a fiddle. There's a lot of room for low notes. If you want to put a fiddle on a really big festival stage, it might sound a little bit small. But I can add color, basically. I can add like audio color to the fiddle music. But to do that, I first have to understand a way to do it without breaking up the flow for the melody player. So I have to go from a normal sort of drummers. If you look at like pop music and also a lot in jazz music, it's although it's more a spectrum of like, are you the time sort of keeper?
Yeah, I mean, jazz can be almost anything these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
But are you, as a drummer, you're used to being in a role as a timekeeper, and people look to you to sort of keep time. And if you're good on that or not, that's another question.
Yeah.
But that's usually the sort of standard role, and that really doesn't work as much within this context. You can do it, but that will limit the possibilities for the melody player to express themselves.
So what do you see then as your main purpose in the folk music? Like, if it's a jam or a band, like, how do you see your role as a percussionist in this type of like Scandinavian music?
I see myself as a sort of second voice player. or sometimes melody player. So I play melodies on the drums, even though I don't play the melodies on the drums. Sometimes I play the actual melody on the tambourine or a bass line or something. But I'm a follower. I follow the melody player.
And I think that's like a key difference from what you were touching on with pop music, in that in pop and rock music we're so used to thinking about like these layers of, you have like the bass and drums in the bottom layer, and then maybe you have some chords on top of it, and then the melody usually sits on top. And it's not always even necessary for the drummer to have an idea of what the melody will finally be.
No, that's true.
Whereas you can't approach folk music like that at all. But as people coming from the outside, like as drummers, as guitar players, in the beginning, that's how we approach the music. Like at least that's how I kind of did it in the first way, and in the first place. And as you say, like you realize it doesn't work after a while. You need to really know the melody and kind of play the melody, as you say. The difference between, or the borders between what's an accompaniment and what's the melody isn't there in the same way.
Yeah, and you can learn the melody, but you also need to know the sort of context that the melody appears in, and the tradition that it stems from. And so as a drummer, your role is not to be a timekeeper. In my sense, you can do that also, but the important role to learn, if you're going to play guitars or piano or drums or anything, to most kinds of Scandinavian folk music, at least that's my sort of area that I know most about. Then you need this role of a follower, that you can follow the melody and also take the melody and lead the melody. That's the next sort of step. And if you can use those two roles, then you can sometimes use them like in arranging tunes. So now I go into this more drummer role, that I set the beat here and you play within that structure, and then I can let loose and I can follow the melody in this part instead.
Yeah.
So it gives more tools to play with and against and under and on the side of the melody.